happening, guys? Cap over here, and welcome to another week of the WPE League, or the WPE League, as you guys have become so accustomed to. Today we're taking on Bill, or Papa Z, or he is the coach of the New York Klinks. This is one of the few battles where my team doesn't really match up well against the other team, nor does his team match up well against my team. And we also have the Clash of the Titans. We have Mega METAGROSS versus Mega MAWILE, two bust Pokemon going against each other to see which one's more busted. But before we get into this whole thing, be sure to smash that like button and sub to the Toronto SwaBlu Jays, as we really do appreciate you guys' support. And be sure to check out his side of the battle. He will be uploading his side, so be sure to check it out. Be sure to subscribe and check out all his stuff. He's a part of the National Pokemon Association, so he knows what he's doing. He's a competent coach, and I was pretty hyped to go against this man, because this is one of the battles that I had circled on my schedule just because of his background in Draft League format. And we'll talk a bit about the team that I'm bringing in today. So I've got Cryogentle to really handle a lot of his things. Cryogentle actually has a really good matchup against a lot of his spawns, with things like Freeze Ray, Ice Beam, and Hidden Power Ground. That's all the coverage that I need to really handle the stuff that he has, and just give me more information in terms of the battle. So that's all I figured I needed. It does have the Never Melt Ice just to get that boost on ice attacks and whatnot, and sort of just play some mind games with it. We're also debuting Uka, the Alolan Marowak. This guy has a phenomenal matchup against his team just because of Bone Rush, Flare Blitz, Boomerang, and with the Thick Club just boosting his attack. Whew, there's not a lot of solid checks that he has to it. And I figured, you know, with sheer offensive presence, I should be able to dwindle his team to let either A, Salamence take it down, or B, the Mega METAGROSS to really dictate this match. So that's sort of my thought process with it. With that, I did bring in the standard Choice Scarf Salamence just because it's so good against his team. It's a big threat. It's something that he has to be really careful around, and either if he brings in a Choice Scarf Gengar, then he has to lock himself into a move that could potentially one-hit KO the Salamence, and I can bring in something else that really allows me to really play around with his team. Or B, Salamence just sweeps. it's as simple as that. Salamence is a big threat against his team. We do have the standard Weezing showing up for the second time in a row of 2 matches. Weezing is just a great Pokemon to bring into this match because it's one of my solid defensive checks against his team, and it pairs up so well with my team in terms of chemistry and whatnot. And then of course we're bringing Mega METAGROSS. Mega METAGROSS is just busted as ever, and how can I not bring this on every week, week in and week out? It's just so good. Then we have the Florius just to handle things that's especially offensive. I was sort of scared of a couple things against this team, and just looking back, I didn't really need the Florius that much. It was sort of a flat wheel with my team, but hey, it does things, and it does complement Weezing fairly well. So I figured, you know what, let's slap it on, hope for the best. It does have Wish, so I could potentially Wish Pass. And let's get this battle on its way. Yeah, this is something that I've been pretty hyped about for quite some time. Papa Z is an incredible battler, and he's probably going to be one of the opponents that I face in the playoffs. And so I didn't want to reveal too much in this battle, but sadly, I felt like I had to play really well in this battle. But let's get this battle on its way, like I said before. I'm going to lead off with Cryogentle because I figured, you know what, he might lead off with Seismitoad, or he might lead off with Mew. Set up those Stealth Rocks, but that's one of the main reasons why I did not bring a hazard removal, because I figured, you know what, if he wants to get rid of hazards, he has to collect Defog, and hazards are going to hurt him a lot more than those hazards hurt me, so that's why I didn't bring in it. So I decided to switch out over here because this is a bad matchup. Either he does a lot of damage to me, or he does a lot of damage. Either or, I'm not happy. I want to just simply switch out into Weezing, absorb this hit, and this gives me some really good information, because this tells me that there's a potential Choice Scarf right here, and that's something that's really good to know, because in case, you know, I gotta get METAGROSS in it, I gotta put it in range where Bolt Punch takes it down. So turn 1, it's looking pretty good for me. I got some information in my back pocket, and that's the name of the game. The more info that you have, the happier that you are. So he ends up going for the Willow over here with the Mew, making a switch over there. As Mr. Freeze is just going to take it, which is absolutely fine by me. I do have Recover. I can sort of still absorb hits, and I can simply fire off either a Ice Beam, Freeze Dry, or a Hidden Power Ground, which I do end up making a mean prediction over here, going for Hidden Power Ground, which is going to be super effective. Do over half to this Mega Mawile, and I'm like, alright, cool. Now this Mega Mawile is sort of manageable right now, because that's a prediction that really paid off in the long run, and it's going to really affect how he uses Mega Mawile. So he ends up withdrawing this thing, and I'm like, alright, cool. Turn 4 Mega Mawile is looking pretty nullified over there. It won't be doing a lot of things, and I'm in a situation where I can actually stay in and sack off a Pokemon, or he has to go for a Sword Stance or do something like that if he wants to set up. So I'm pretty happy about that, and Weezen's just going to come in and simply fire up a Sludge Bomb. Once again, since Mega Mawile is so low, I can play the middle ground play, go for a Sludge Bomb, and simply fire up a Flamethrower if he does bring it in, and get some damage off of this Mew. Now, the first turn I figured, you know what, this Mew is just going to be your standard knockoff U-turn, Willow, Roost Mew, sort of that annoying set, so I figured he wouldn't have Psychic, but what do you know, this man does have Psychic, and I was hoping that I'd sort of get the Poison, and doesn't work out for me, as I take a lot of unnecessary damage with the Weezing, playing way too aggressive. So I'm going to be forced to withdraw and bring out Uka Uka and simply fire off a Shadow Bone at this point, because I really want to get some damage off of this thing. Seismitoad and the Mew are the few things stopping my Metagross from really dictating this match. Mega Metagross really has an incredible matchup, so I got to get these things worn down, and I got to put it in range where either Meteor Mash or Zen Headbutt will simply just finish off the game. And that was sort of my thought process as soon as I saw what mon sort of stopped Metagross from really just putting in a lot of work. So this track is a defensive beast right now, and I was hoping that he'd overpredict me, set up the Stealth Rocks, because he would see the potential of it really doing a lot of damage to my team. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to set up my own Stealth Rocks and really start to apply the pressure on his side. And it sort of pays off for me, which is fantastic, because he does end up doing what I thought he would do. And we end up trading the Stealth Rocks, which is going to be phenomenal for my side because it lowers the Darmanitan, and it's going to be great for him too, because it also makes Salamence a lot less of a big threat, as he ends up going for the knockoff. Does a lot of damage to Mr. Freeze, but I ran the calculations and I can actually recover a lot more HP than he can deal to me, so I decided, you know what, he's not going to stay in. I do have the Freeze Dry, it's a bit obvious. I'm going to go for the Recover and hopefully he over predicts. But he actually stayed in, and that's gonna be that's not gonna be a good situation for me, as he ends up going for a knockoff, and it doesn't do a lot of damage, so I'm pretty happy about that, as now I decide, you know what, if he's gonna play this sort of game, I'm gonna go for the Freeze Dry and try to get us some decent damage. And he ends up making a switch over here as he goes into his Darmanitan. Not willing to make that prediction for myself because I'm not that ballsy, but this Freeze Dry is going to be doing a lot of damage. That's because it's a crit, and I know this Freeze Dry was a big point in this match because I was looking at rock damage, stealth rock damage, and Bullet Punch, how much it would do, and that puts it in range where Metagross will take it down. So that crit was pretty huge because, like I said before, Metagross can take this thing down after one switch into Stealth Rocks, as he ends up going for the U-turn. And I decide to sack off Cry Channel because I can bring in Salamence, and Salamence will actually apply a lot of pressure to a lot of things on his team. So Uka is going to come out, and I decide, let's play a bit risky over here. No way is he going to stay in because Shadow Bone actually does take down his Mew, as he ends up going for a Psychic, staying in, as I overpredict, go for the Willow, and that doesn't work out for me. That doesn't work out for me. Thankfully, the Will-O-Wisp will nullify lefties, and I can sort of put myself in a pretty good situation over here because now I can just go for the Shadow Bone, and I sort of figure out over here that once Mew goes down, I can bring in Mega Metagross or the Salamence, and really apply a lot of pressure, or he decides to go for the roost, and you know, I put it still in pretty good range. So he decides to go for the roost, and that really bites in the butt over here, just because I put in a range where Mega Metagross can take it down, and that's going to be pretty huge because Mew is one of his answers to Mega Metagross, and that allows Metagross to really become that big of a threat of potentially sweeping his team. So I'm like, alright, cool, Mew is in range of a offensive Mega Metagross, which is fantastic because now I can just go into my captain over my team, show him how to lead the way, and now this monster is on my side of the field. So I'm going to show off my Mega Evolution. My OP Mon is just going to come in, take down this defensive threat that is just that's so small and so Mew, and simply just toss it aside like it's nothing. Like Metagross, way too busted for its own good, and Mega Metagross is going to pick up another KO of the season, leading the team and putting on its back pretty much as always. It's just so broken. So he brings out Toad. I'm scared of this thing. It is pretty scary, and I decide to sack off Dr. Poison because at this point I decide, you know what, he might go for Earthquake. If he does, then that Weezing could potentially outspeed this thing. It could potentially outspeed it. I don't remember its speed stat, but no, I don't think it could. I'm pretty sure it couldn't. So he ends up going for the Ice Wind, KOs my Weezing, and I'm like, alright, that's not a bad situation. I can bring on Mod and sort of threaten this thing, put it in range where I could potentially take it down. The Moonblast would actually put it in range for Bullet Punch to take down the Mega Mawile. So either or, I'm not in a bad situation. I just gotta put this thing in range where Metagross can take it down with Zen Headbutt or Earthquake or something like that. So I'm not looking too shaky over here. I'm still looking pretty solid, as I end up going for the Wish in this turn because I want to play some mind games with him. I was sort of kicking myself in the butt because I did not mean to put Wish on this Mon. I wanted Synthesis, but it sort of pays off over here because now I have him sort of predicting if I go into Salamence, I could get the Wish up, or I could do some other things, and this forces him to make a sort of prediction on his side, I guess, and the Icy Wind will land on me, and I can land some big damage. So getting that Hidden Power Ground off on the first turn sort of nullifies it at that, and I'm looking pretty solid at this point because now Shrek is in range where the Moonblast will put in range of Zen Headbutt. So I'm pretty happy about that. Pretty big play at this point because this means Shrek is in range of the Zen Headbutt, and I can bring in Metagross and really apply a lot of pressure. I don't have to play a risky game at this point because, like, I don't really have to do that. As predictable as Earthquake was, it would put me in a situation where I'd go into Salamence, I go for either Dragon Claw or Outrage, and he could potentially set up with something on his side or make that prediction and go into Virizion. So it doesn't really put me in a bad situation. Now the ball's on his court, he can go into Mega Mawile and either go for A, Swords Dance, making a prediction that I'd switch out, or B, simply just KO me with Player Up, Iron Head, or something like that. And I decide, you know what, it's time for Mod's time to go away at this point. He can Mega Evolve, get the KO, that's no problem for me. I can go right into Salamence, and then that puts the ball back onto my court. Either I can make a prediction, or I can just go for Earthquake and take down this thing. Either or, I'm in a pretty good situation because Bullet Punch will, I'm pretty sure Bullet Punch will take down Mega Mawile. So now I can just go right into my little Chaos over here and simply knock out this Mon pretty easily with the Earthquake, as now we're going to get our Moxie boost, and I'm like, oh boy. Salamence is going to be putting in some fine work. So at this moment, I'm like, alright, he's going to go into Virizion. I don't see why not he would go into Virizion. And he actually doesn't go into it. He goes into Mob Psycho, and I'm like, ooh, this thing could be Scarfed, or he doesn't know I'm Scarfed. So let's scout out what he wants to do, and he ends up going for the Icy Wind, outspeeding me, and I'm like, alright, this thing is Scarfed, which means I get a free punch on something on his side, which means I potentially one-hit KO something on his side. A lot of things on his side, I guess. So sort of the dominoes fall on his side. It's 1 against 4, I believe. 1 against 3, and I'm like, alright, METAGROSS can probably take down a lot of these mons. And I ended up going for the meteor match because I was hoping that I could get a attack boost. If I get an attack boost, it's pretty much GG at that point. I can go for meteor match and KO a lot of things on his side because Brrrr-ing doesn't have the offensive presence to one-hit KO METAGROSS or take it down at the range I'm at. Bakugo. But yeah, that thing's in range of Bullet Punch. So down goes the Darmanitan. I'm not pronouncing the nickname anymore. I'm just sabotaging the nickname at this point. And down it goes. So I'm like, all right, cool. Last Pokemon in my way is the Brrrr-ing. I'm clicking Zen Headbutt, and I just realized at this point, I'm like, oh snap. I could potentially miss the Zen Headbutt, and that would be like, I think that would be a GG, or it would be a roll for it to take me down with close combat. So I'm going for the Zen Headbutt. Luckily for me, I do land it, and that will one-hit KO the Brrrr-ing, and we'll pick up a narrow 1-0 victory over Papa C. So GG to him. That was a fantastic game, and in some way, I do have to say that he did sort of choke it away with the Gengar and whatnot, but he played phenomenally throughout that whole match. I clearly saw my win condition, that being the Mega METAGROSS, and I sort of played to that advantage because I knew how good Mega METAGROSS is against his team, having the coverage that it has. And I did debate on bringing in Rock Polish Mega METAGROSS. We talked a bit about that for quite some time, and it still would have come down to a speed tie thanks to the Gengar and whatnot. So I decided, you know what, maybe Mega METAGROSS wouldn't have been the best idea, but it didn't bite me in the butt this time, as I believe this is one of the teams that I'm going to have to go through to make it into the finals and potentially try to win the WPE League, because this team is really solid. Don't look at the record because it doesn't really clearly indicate how well this team is built and what sort of offensive threats that it has, plus defensive threats. This was one of the hardest battles that I had to prep for, and shouts to Papa C for really putting on a show over there. So I'm looking forward to meeting him in the finals and all that, but I'm gonna get going. We'll move to, I don't really know my record at this point. We'll still be 1 loss and yada yada yada, and hopefully we'll be back sometime soon. A lot of people dropped out, and hopefully this league does continue and still we can still keep on providing you content from the big league and whatnot, because I'm really enjoying my team. Not gonna lie, this is one of my favorite teams that I've been playing with for quite some time, and I do believe that we have a potential championship team, and I think a lot of people really do anticipate that, us being one of the stronger teams in the WPE League, just how we're built and how much offensive presence that we have. I think a lot of people, it's safe to say that, you know, if they had to bet on a team, it would be us. But I'm gonna get going, and thank you so much for watching, and be sure to smash the like button and sub to the channel. So I'm gonna catch you guys later. Have yourselves a good day, a good morning, and a good evening. Peace.